Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the GodXP Spiritual Fitness Podcast. I am your host, Anthony Polanco. You can call me Aunt P. Today, we are joined by amazing guest, Mashi Cohen. Been following her on Instagram. You can follow her at Mashi Cohen on Instagram or at the Liber8 Experience LA on Instagram as well. She's a yoga teacher, a coach, entrepreneur, creator of the Liber8 Experience, and just incredibly inspiring. Her work is a statement to her belief in self-expression, and just a willingness to share with us today is just a testament to her belief in a person's ability to overcome mental, physical, or existential struggles or challenges. I'm a huge fan of her work, and I recommend you follow her now. For more details, visit theliber8experience.com. Mashi, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Anthony. Thanks for that intro. Thanks for having me on here. I'm excited.
Yeah, so just for people who don't know, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself, what it is that you've been working on with the Liber8 Experience, and just who you are a little bit.
Sure. So I'm actually in New Jersey visiting my hometown, so it feels very appropriate time-wise. I'm in my dad's office in New Jersey as we speak. So a little background about me. I hail from New Jersey, East Coast, and I made my way to the West Coast about 5 or so years ago, really in an effort just to get away from the East Coast and to start again and to find myself, as a lot of people find themselves in California for. And it did not disappoint. I spent, the first few years while I was there just exploring and really getting to know myself in a new way, in a new place, by myself. My journey, my personal journey to get there was filled with a lot of emotional and mental health struggles. And so that is why I'm so passionate about that area of work and self-expression in general. I think so much of my journey has been discovering my own self-expression and then helping other people to do the same. So that's the ethos behind my brand, and the passion behind everything that I do is a desire to help people find freedom, liberation in themselves mostly. A big part of my journey as well, through all the mental and emotional health struggles, which I can get into more detail later if you want, was recognizing that our own minds are our worst enemy, but can also be our best friend because it's such a powerful tool that we have. And so we can learn to harness that tool and we become unstoppable rather than allowing it to destroy us.
That's huge. That's so cool. So when you first moved from New Jersey, did you know more or less like what your journey was going to look like, or did you have more of a self-realization or an awakening when you got to LA?
Yeah, I had no idea. I came to LA really with a blank slate, which is a little bit scary, but also a really beautiful place to be in because so much is open to you. And so at that age, I was about 21, it really hit me that my life is a blank canvas. Like, I'm not really bringing any sort of identity from my past into my present. And so I experienced at a very young age this recognition of really being the artist of my own painting, the creator of my own story. And I'm lucky enough, I guess, that I was young enough for it to excite me more than it scared me. And, I wasn't really afraid to just try everything. Take some risks, see what I liked, see what I didn't like. So looking back, it was such a fresh place to be in, coming to LA, 21 years old, not really knowing what I wanted, except that I didn't want what I had come from, where I didn't feel like I was able to express myself fully growing up. So I tried many different things. Before I actually found yoga, for example, I was boxing for a year straight, almost every day, really into it, and fell into yoga kind of by mistake. But that was a space that I was in where I was so open to just trying new things and discovering what stuck and what didn't. That looking back, I'm really grateful for that time. I don't know if I appreciated it then, but it was a beautiful space to be in.
Wow. So many people I have on the show, and as do I, have this time in our lives where we're kind of in this, we're given permission to explore life kind of letting go of the identity that we built up as kids. And maybe it's a coming of age thing that we all hit at different times, but it seems like early 20s, sometime in someone's 20s, that they kind of have that time to, for whatever reason. For you, you dropped everything in New Jersey and found yourself with a clean slate. No one knew you. Your identity you didn't have to bring so much of that with you. So you had that free space to explore. And the self-transformation ended up being you finding yourself in, and also in extremely meaningful work that you now love. And that wasn't a part of your identity before. It's just amazing that time in our lives when it seems so scary at the time, and yet it ends up being the biggest gift that the universe has ever given, you know? I see the world changing for spiritual teachers. There's an increased cost of everything, which means most people can't afford retreats and trainings. There's an impact of traffic on commutes to the yoga studio or to church, and an increased attention on smartphones and laptops that we simply can't resist anymore. So I helped create a platform called spiritualfitnessgym.com. It's designed to be frictionless for teachers of all modalities to reach more people, to share their best teachings from the comfort of their home or their empty studio, and most importantly, to keep the lion's share of their revenue. If you're struggling to grow your in-person classes or your online audience, then spiritualfitnessgym.com is the launch pad that you've been waiting for. Imagine recording a video series of your best or favorite teachings from your house or an empty studio using a step-by-step guide that we've created in case you're not technically savvy, and then co-promoting it with a group of passionate people, including myself, all while maintaining creative control over your journey and your earnings. Bearers of light, head to spiritualfitnessgym.com right now. Click on the link Teachers and open the door to a realm of new possibilities, greater impact, and the kind of collaborative growth that can transform your business and light up the world together. So what is the Liber8 experience? We can talk about how you got there, but just for people who don't know, like explain like what it is and what you're really trying to create and manifest with those events.
Yeah. So the ethos of the Liber8 experience is to create a space for people to express themselves fully, be accepted for that, and feel high on life and free. So fostering community, wellness, fitness, and wholesome fun. I started this over COVID, actually, like right as COVID was ending. So it was such a beautiful, ripe time. I think in that year, people were able to do a lot of introspection and discovered new ways to have fun and hang out with each other past, the normal bar club scene. So it was really such a perfect time to start this. So I'm really grateful because, like everybody else, I was just starving for human connection and had such a renewed appreciation for that. I also grew up in a very tight-knit community, and so I have valued community from as young as I can remember, and it will always be a super important part of who I am, fostering that community, that safe space for people to come, be themselves, to feel like they're a part of something, to feel like they belong to something, because we thrive on that. We need that as humans. So that was definitely what motivated me and drove me in the beginning and still does. I think as the years have gone on and I've grown the brand and experimented with different things, I'm also open to new opportunities like starting a podcast or launching a product line, just new and exciting ways to reach more people. So I'm still sitting with that right now and, leaving it up to the universe to take me where it wants to go. But as of right now, it's based on mostly live events where we get to come together, move our bodies, have a good time, rap a little, vibe a little, feel free and feel empowered. That's really how I want people to feel at the end of every event, really empowered in themselves and feeling like they can do anything.
Yeah, that's so awesome. I totally get that from all the media, from the events on social media. The event itself seems awesome, but you can tell that the community is a huge part of it. Where did the idea come from, and the whole like combining hip hop with yoga thing? Like, how did that come into your life?
Yeah. So I'll start with the hip hop and yoga thing because that just naturally evolved in such a fun way. I've always loved rhyming and poetry ever since I was a little girl. And I never lost that love. I always just loved rhyming. And as I got older, it was more rapping. And I never really did anything with it professionally, but it was a fun hobby, something I always loved to do. And then I became a yoga teacher, not connecting the two at all. But after teaching for a while, I noticed that yoga was such a rhythmic activity between the music and the movements. It had such a rhythm to it. I like to say that I think all of life has a rhythm to it, right? There seems to be this rhythm pulsing through life. And it's such a fun way to think about life. Whenever things get too serious, I like to remember that we're all just vibing out to a rhythm here. So it kind of naturally evolved as I continued teaching. I noticed that as I was teaching, I would kind of talk in a rhythm, and sometimes the words rhymed, and that was super fun, and everybody really loved that. So hence evolved out of that hip hop yoga, which I used to call rap yoga, but people weren't always sure what that was. So I feel like hip hop yoga kind of sums it up in an interesting way where people are like, what's that? But it's not so much yoga set to hip hop music, but more yoga that's taught in a hip hop style. So yoga taught in a rap, which was super fun for me to teach and super fun for everybody to experience. So that became a thing, and I love it.
That is so sick. That's
Yeah.
incredible. I've talked to lots of different yoga teachers who have their own brand of yoga that they manifested in their lives based on previous experiences. It's just so beautiful to hear the unique gift that we all have, and to hear that, like, to hear and see how it manifests in the universe, you know?
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I agree. I think especially in LA, that is so inundated with wellness, which is such a blessing. But it's so amazing to see how everybody develops their own unique style. And so no two are really the same. You have so many yoga teachers in LA, but each one will bring their unique story and their unique experience and their unique little twist to it, which is so much fun. And like you did with sound, that's so epic. That's so different. That's so beautiful.
Yeah, it's funny too how the COVID lockdown period gave birth to so many of these ideas. I think because society needed healing, the healers were given the ideas during the time that we needed it the most. And so, you know, all these, like you said, wellness is so huge now. Whereas when I started GodXP, I thought, oh, I'm going to be a champion for, mainstream spiritual wellness. And now it's a huge trend. And now I'm feeling like I got to keep up with the trend. It's a huge blessing. The universe needed it. And it feels good to kind of run with the horses instead of feeling like you're the only one out there doing it. It's actually a really good thing. Like you said, the competitive mind might be like, man, I wish I was the only one doing this, or I wish I was more unique. But the creative mind is like, no, this is great. Now there's a lot of people who love the thing that I love,
Yeah. I love that. I'd also love to share one thing on that, because I think it's hard not to think that way once in a while. Like, wow, there's so many people doing what I'm doing. Like, does anybody even need what I'm doing? And I think what I realized recently is that, because we live in an information age, it's really not about what it is that you're saying, because we're all saying the same thing in different ways, but it's saying it the way that you're saying it. It's bringing you to it, because nobody is you. Nobody is Anthony. Nobody is me. And so reminding myself that over and over feels important, because I think that there is space for everybody, because no two people are the same. We all get to shine in our unique way and bring our own individual self to whatever it is that we're doing. And it's also an encouraging way to remind ourselves to not dim our light, not try to fit in and be like everybody else, because what will differentiate us is being our most unique selves. And so I think that, especially nowadays in this crazy, incredible age that we're living in, that is so chock full of information, and we all have become consumers in some way, it's remembering that there's so much space. There really is.
Definitely. Yeah, and that's something I was just thinking about the other day about doing the podcast. There's a ton of podcasts and there's a lot of people doing what I do. But every time I post a podcast episode and I see the views, those are real people. And I can't stop thinking about, the people who like my stuff all the time and wanting to be there for them. Just like you with your events, maybe 1,000 people don't show up, but for the people who show up, you're theirs. Like they chose you, their experience, you're a significant part of it. And for 30 people or 300 people or however many, the experience is significant enough. If I was a shoe cobbler, the people whose shoes I fixed would be enough. I wouldn't need to be the most world famous shoe cobbler to be a success.
Yeah, that's such a great point. Thank you for touching on that. I think sometimes we can get caught up in a numbers game of like, more is better and grander is better. And I'm a super big picture person myself, so I really relate to that, where it's like I want to do things on a large scale all the time, and really recognizing that there's such a beauty to more intimate gatherings. There's such a beauty to, more engagement, less huge numbers necessarily, right? Like it's not always an indicator. And in when I've hosted more intimate events, it's so beautiful the way that I get to really connect with every person there rather than like people just swimming in a mass of humans. So it allows the people that are there to feel really special and really included. So I love that. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think that's really important.
That being said, like looking back on the start of the Liber8 experience, how was the first few events or the very first event? What was that experience like of getting your first event out there?
Yeah. So I was living in Venice at the time at a community home called Mystic Manor, which I still frequent when they have events, and I'm forever grateful to them. They're my good friends now, and they have created a beautiful community where they host gatherings and do all sorts of fun wellness things. So I lived there at the time, and they had a studio there that wasn't really being used. And so they told me I could use it. And so I had no expectation going into it. It was really with, an open heart and mind and a pure desire to gather the people. And so the first event, the very, very first event that I created was just a yoga class. And I sent it out to a few friends like the night before. So super last minute. And I was surprised at the amount of people that showed up. It was like about 11 or 12, not a lot of people, but it was significant for it being so last minute. And it just showed me how much people were really starving for this connection. And so from then, I think right after that, I got this idea to just combine, yoga, sound bath, ecstatic dance, cacao ceremony. And that is, the signature Liber8 event. And continued doing it at the Mystic Manor. And, the room was full and there were people taking up the kitchen and the hallway space. So I had no expectations. So I was just so overjoyed at the way that people were responding. And it really just showed me the tremendous need for this. And, how much people value community just as much as I do. So that was kind of how it started. Eventually I moved out of the Mystic Manor. I still hosted some events there. I hosted events at Rafi Lounge in Malibu, and all over LA, really. Mostly on the west side, but various locations all around LA. And, just a lot of learning what people want and what really truly leaves people feeling fulfilled at the end of the day after attending an event. Mm-hmm. But that was how it started.
Wow. Okay. So this community that was already built in was a big part of your, I guess, like launch point for the Liber8 experience. Was it called the Liber8 experience right away? Did you already know?
It was actually. The name came to me and that was just what it was. I don't even remember how it came to me, but it just, those things that just seem obvious. It was one of those where I was like, yeah, it's a Liber8 experience, obviously. I think a part of me has always really stood for liberation. Before this, I had had a coaching website up, just like the very beginnings of me stepping foot into this world. And Liber8 was a word that I used a lot. So it kind of just fit in. 8 is also my favorite number. It's infinity. It's supernatural. So I love that there was an 8 in Liber8. I like to spell it with an 8. So yeah. So that part just seemed like it had to be called the Liber8 experience.
Yeah. If you're someone who listens to the GodXP podcast, then you're probably on a quest for cosmic gains. If that's true, we have a sponsor for you. Check out Seeker's Market. This is the place to level up your spiritual swag, home decor, fashion, courses, and more. Seeker's Market is now the official merch shop for all GodXP merch, and we couldn't be more stoked because of the incredible quality and caliber of art, prints, fashion, online education, and more. What's amazing about Seeker's Market is they understand that GodXP listeners have the spiritual aesthetic of the gods. So, visit theseekersmarket.com and use code GodXP20 for 20% off your first order. What's better, if you live in the US of A, free shipping on all orders, no minimum purchase required. Could not be happier to partner with the Seeker's Market to bring you current and future GodXP merch, and I can't wait to fill the office and my entire home with Seeker's Market, art, prints, and more. Join me, won't you, in visiting theseekersmarket.com today. That's so interesting. How, at first you were thinking along the lines of coaching, and I know you probably still do some coaching, but then it became the live events, and it's just so cool to see, that live events was the thing that worked for you with GodXP. I started it in 2016 as a podcast, and I've tried lots of different things. Coaching, we've made courses, we've even done live events. And what I've realized now that it's been 6 or 7 years or so, the podcast is the only thing that's been consistent, and all these other little one-off projects that kind of didn't work out as big as I was hoping in the beginning, those things are starting to blossom now that it's been so long. So you were talking about podcasting, and maybe your coaching portion of the business will build up in the future. It's interesting. We plant these seeds, and then some things work out right away and some things take a little bit longer. It's cool how that's happened for you as well.
Yeah. I love that. I think you touched on such an important point, especially in the entrepreneurial world, because you really never know. It really, the seeds that we plant today don't blossom tomorrow. It really does take hard work and no expectation really, because you just never know. So I feel like it's this interesting combination of finding that one thing that you love, that you're super passionate about, no matter how it's received, right? Because that's something that I need to remind myself as an entrepreneur and as a creator. When I create something, it's not about how it's received. First, I want to make sure that I'm creating it with the right intentions and with the right desires. And then after that, I can look, okay, now, how is this being received and what is the feedback and how can I improve on this? And maybe do I want to pivot, right? So it's this interesting dance that I'm definitely still learning. I feel like a baby entrepreneur for sure. But I love that you touched on that, because good for you on the consistency, because, it sounds like you've been really just doing this steadily for 6 years, did you say?
Yeah, it's been off and on. It's funny because it doesn't look like consistency while it's happening, because you have these failures and setbacks and you take breaks. Mm-hmm. But when you look back on it, even if you're fighting yourself, you're still doing something consistently. And I didn't realize it, but creating content and making podcasts, and even if I was taking 3 or 6 months off in between, I still came back to it. And so as long as you never quit, you can't fail, is like the cliche expression, but it's so true. Like if you just keep going, even if you're the worst at it in the world, and if you do it for 7 years, eventually it's going to start building up some kind of momentum,
Yes. Consistency over almost everything else. I would say everything else. And yeah, you mentioned breaks and whatever, but those things that you keep coming back to, so many other people quit, right? It's not so much about like having specific talent. It's just it's the persistency and the consistency and the belief and the passion, really.
Yeah. So I guess the follow-up question to that would be like, just how has consistency or like, from my perspective, you are the benefactor of consistency with the Liber8 experience. How has consistency or inconsistency affected growth from your perspective?
Yeah, I agree with you that with consistency, growth is inevitable. For about 2 straight years, I was hosting weekly events, if not twice a week. And that was like, that never stopped. Like, that was the drumbeat. And so, growth was really inevitable. I was also doing that full time, basically. So I was creating all the content, organizing all the events, teaching the yoga at the events, like doing all of it. More recently, I've decided consciously actually to pivot to doing live events less consistently and collaborating with other people because I love what's going on in LA right now and all of the amazing wellness events that are happening. And I'd love for Liber8 to collaborate with some people and like join communities, join forces, while I also kind of swim in the benefactor, like you said, of the consistency and feel into what wants to be created next. Because it does feel like, oh, while I love hosting live events and I will continue to do that, I would love to find ways to help more people in ways that are virtual, let's say, or more digital, like using technology, and to have an even wider reach. So, while I'm in that spot, I also get to continue to host live events at my own pace and at my own desire. So that's been really beautiful. For a while, I was so set on having live events every single week that if I had to skip one week, I'd, panic and freak out. And I realized that I'm the one doing that to myself, as the creator of this. And so really getting to know the community a little bit better and asking people what they're wanting. Like, what are people wanting? What is needed? Because I think, and as an entrepreneur, I'm sure you know this too, as seasons change and times change, people want different things. Things start changing. What you want changes. And to not resist that and to roll with that is a skill that I'm learning too. My entrepreneurial side tends to be a little bit more masculine, like likes to have very specific set rules, which is great for taking action and getting things done and like hustling. But I've also been finding a balance between that and also the creative, more flowy, feminine energy. And so really tuning in intuitively to, what is wanted right now? Like, what is wanted, and then what am I wanting to create? So it's definitely been a journey. It's definitely a journey that I'm still on. And I'm grateful for every leg of it.
That's so huge. I think a lot of people, including myself, would like to know, what does that look like for you? The asking people part and the actual listening. Practically, what does that look like? Because something I've struggled with as an entrepreneur, and I'm sure a lot of people struggle with, we know what we want to make, but we don't know how to listen to what people are consuming. Like, what do the people want? So what does asking look like, and what does listening look like?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I kind of touched on this before. I think it's kind of a dance, right? A dance between what you want to create and then what is wanted and like what the people are wanting. So I would say like trial and error. Like, there's nothing better than just experimenting and knowing that it's an experiment, right? So, taking risks, trying something new and seeing how that's received. And that's the biggest tell, right? Like, if I were to throw a virtual event and 5,000 people would show up, I'd be like, cool, people are wanting this. But if I try that and like, it wouldn't go as smoothly, then I'd maybe reconsider. But of course, having a balance with that as well, because sometimes things need a couple tries, right? So it really is this delicate dance and like shying away from rules of like, this means this and that means that, but more being open to pivoting, to swimming with the current, to feeling into yourself as well as feeling into others. So that's number one. Secondly, in terms of what does practically asking look like, I think for me, it's really been approaching friends, approaching people in the community, and just having conversations like, hey, what are you wanting? What did you love about the Liber8 experience? What do you miss about the Liber8 experience signature event? Like what stuck out to you? What had you coming back week after week? If you came a couple times but didn't come back that often, like what would have made you come back? What are you wanting now in your life? Like, what are you wanting support with? I'm not claiming to be an expert on this, but that's what's worked for me. And I think that there's no better way than to really just have conversations with real people, with friends, people people that you trust, people that trust you, people that have been acquainted with your work before, and just, hearing what they have to say. And people will share, but they won't necessarily volunteer the information. You sometimes have to ask.
Definitely. Yeah, that's huge. Cosmic Crusader, fellow GodXP podcast listener, I've found the digital oasis of enlightenment. It's called Spiritual Fitness Gym. There's no treadmills, there's no weights, just pure spiritual gains. If you're ready for a Zen playground, a spiritual buffet of yoga, meditation, and other divine practices, well, my spiritual comrade, I've teamed up with Spiritual Fitness Gym to bring you my very first instructional boring-proof meditation completely free for a limited time. This is a boot camp for the body, mind, and spirit, a series of meditations with yoga that you can practice on your own time to build a consistent spiritual practice in your life. Don't miss this opportunity to develop your daily practice into something that's engaging and consistent and totally worth doing forever. That's right, my friends. My very first course on Spiritual Fitness Gym, called Boring Proof Meditation, is absolutely free right now. Just pure, unadulterated technique and practice with me. So, are you ready to ditch the McDonald's of spirituality and embrace divine excellence? If so, go to spiritualfitnessgym.com right now and level up your spirit today. I know that for me, the rapid testing, trial and error has been huge. Setting, a few months aside to create something and then asking people, do you like this? By putting it out, maybe doing a test run or something, and then gauging the response. That's like my own mini, how do you call it? Like focus group, I guess. It's just, I'm actually putting out a product, but it's like kind of a small beta test, like let's say. And just if people are interested, then I know, okay, I can lean into this. And because of that, I've been able to try a few different things and, kill off what doesn't work right away or push it to the side, to try again in a year or so. And the things that did work or that have worked would, those things have shown up in 1 year or the last 2 years rather than taking me 5 or 6 years to eventually try,
Yeah. I love that. I love your willingness to pivot and be flexible.
Yeah, I just think that's a part of it, is a part of the humility factor that comes with being a creator is you have to be willing to get up on stage and say, I made this. Do you guys like it? And if everyone boos or no one says anything, you got to go back to your workshop and make something new. That's something that every artist or creator just existentially has to go through, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. And like being okay with, feeling sometimes embarrassed or disappointed, and being okay with that and recognizing that's not actually failure. Like I've had to really reframe the way that I thought of failure in my mind and really like negate any expectations because, in the 2 years that I was hosting weekly events, there were some events that I didn't sell as many tickets as I thought I would or wanted to. And, sometimes I even lost money and had to pay out of pocket and like being okay with that, and like knowing that it's just a part of the process, not creating meaning out of it. Like, oh, this means that I failed. Oh, this means that this is no good. Right. So not making it personal. That's something I've had to learn for sure.
So, when you look forward, what are you facing? It sounds like you've had a long run of doing events consistently. So looking forward, like what's holding you back from the next phase or chapter in the Liber8 experience?
Great question. I don't think there's anything so much holding me back. I think that there are certain skills that I'm learning that will accelerate the growth. For example, like delegating. I'm learning to do that. It might sound silly, but that's something I had to learn. I didn't even know this about myself, but how much I was doing myself that I didn't really need to, that was taking up so much of my time that I could have been spent doing other things. So I'm learning that now. So, really building up a team of people that I love and trust and that have the same vision as me, delegating tasks to people and focusing on the vision because, I think a lot of entrepreneurs go through this too, figuring out where they thrive, like where is their zone of genius, and then staying there and hiring people or, having other people to do the other things. So that's definitely something that I'm learning at this period, which again is really fun, really beautiful. Another thing that's really helping me is taking the seriousness out of it. I think for myself, for a while, I put a lot of pressure on myself and nobody else was putting this on me. It was all me, as it tends to be. But some invisible bar that I had to reach or some like non-existent ideal that I had to live up to.
Mm-hmm.
And really letting that go and allowing my intuition, my sense of fun and playfulness and joy to lead the way is really changing things for me as I shift into this next phase, which, a lot of it is still up in the air. Definitely still having live events. I'm in the middle of planning a pretty big one right now, actually, but also feeling the desire to do other things, to branch out in new ways, to collaborate in new ways, to reach more people, and being open to what that looks like not really being attached to what I need that to look like.
Right.
Which is a humbling process for sure. Just really letting go of, what I envision and going with the flow of life and seeing where that's taking me.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you used your intuition to navigate that and to overcome that or to realize it and then overcome it in your mind. What does that look like? Because we can suffer for long periods of time without realizing that we have these self-imposed sanctions. What do you do, or what does that moment look like where you realize, oh crap, like I'm living ignorantly or I put myself in a quandary? What like specific tool are you using in your mind to overcome that and like renew yourself?
Yeah, that's such a great question. Thank you for asking that. I think for me, when things start feeling really hard, when things start feeling really challenging, and when I notice that my mind is telling me stories like, whatever they might be, oh, you're stuck, when I start to feel certain ways in my body, that's a red flag for me where I know that I need to chill. Like I need to take a step back and breathe and recognize that nothing is actually wrong. Like nothing is actually wrong. There are no rules. Like there is no way that this needs to go. And allowing that to help me feel powerful instead of scared. Because that can also be a scary place of just infinite potential, but just recognizing that there are no rules. So it's like, rather than put all this stress on myself, I can allow things to just be okay right as they are right now. And from that place of calm and fun and joy and balance, then decide, okay, well, what would feel most fun to do next? What would bring me the most joy right now? And that's pretty different than I would say me at the beginning of my journey, where, no matter what, I was like, we need to have at least one event a week. And again, amazing. So glad I did that. And as I evolve and change, I'm noticing that the way that I do things is evolving and changing, where I'm no longer interested in doing things that are not necessarily where I'm imposing my own will over a situation rather than going with the natural flow of what is happening and what is wanted and what I'm wanting. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I've noticed that same dynamic in my own life, just listening to the tides of the universe or of life and moving with those tides. And it sounds like you've kind of found that same flow in your own life, even though we have goals and we want these great and big things. We understand that we can get there by letting the tides navigate at least part of our journey, so that we don't have to fight against it so much. I love how you said that infinite potential can both be terrifying and also completely freeing and fun. And I think it parallels the story of you coming from New Jersey to LA and having a blank slate, that being scary, but also completely liberating and freeing. And that's something that we can discover in every moment.
Mm-hmm.
And it gives me chills because that is like one of the great spiritual superpowers, is realizing that, like, hey, I can let go of my attachment to my life story so far. And this can become a playground where anything is possible and I can be anyone or do anything. And that's super scary, to let go of the idea that you are all this stuff that you brought with you to this moment. But once you let go of it, you realize that the universe is going to let you play and you're going to be free. And that's a superpower. That's something that you just shared is blessing you in your life. That's just super cool.
Thank you, Anthony. Yeah, I appreciate that. I love the way you frame that.
To me, that's the inspiring thing about hearing people's journeys, is like how there's no roadmap or plan to get to that unique destination that we each have set for ourselves. And yet somehow the universe harmoniously guides us. It's like poetry almost,
Yeah. Oof. Yeah. So true. And I think that, that is really the truth for all of us. It's just sometimes it doesn't feel that way because we feel like we're such a product of our experiences, where we like carry our past with us like suitcases on our back till it gets so heavy. But in reality, the most liberating thing that we can do is realize that every moment truly is brand new. And, we get to decide who we're going to be in every moment. And there are no rules. Like, for example, I used to, want to identify with certain things like way more than I do now, I've noticed. Like even making invisible lines for myself, like, oh, I'm the kind of person that does this, I'm not the kind of person that does that, or like this, like wanting to define myself in some way, which again is so natural for us humans. We want to define ourselves, right, in a way because it feels safe, but at the same time, to define is to limit. And so more and more I'm stepping into this place of, no, you can't define me. I cannot be defined because who I am is ever evolving, ever changing, multidimensional. And I love that. Like, yeah, like I'll throw in a plot twist. Why not? Like, let me surprise you, because why not? That's the fun of life.
Absolutely. That's really why I do the show, is to inspire people to remember that about themselves. When we were kids, we knew that we were capable of being and doing anything. And we can blame society or the way that we're programmed, but we identify and those identities build up. And the longer we cling to our identities, the more we start to judge our experience and judge other people by those identities. And it only limits our experience. It doesn't limit other people for us to judge them. It limits in letting go of that. It goes back to that thing of it's scary and freeing. And when you get on the other side of it, the free side, you look back like, why was I ever scared? Why couldn't I just be this free all the time? It's, I think, a pendulum swing in life that sometimes we forget and sometimes we remember,
Yeah. That's what makes it interesting. If we'd always remember, it'd be kind of boring.
That's so true. I wouldn't have a podcast.
Exactly.
So what's the big game plan? What's the ideal vision for the Liber8 experience? Like if you could have your druthers, everything worked out exactly how you want, what's the 5-year plan or the 1-year plan that you're like that really gets you up in the morning?
Ooh, I love this. I'm going to breathe that in for a second. I think for me, the biggest thing has always been to have the most profound impact possible without really being attached to how that happens, you know? So that's, since I was really young, I remember that just being a desire. And I don't even want to say the biggest impact, right? But it's really the most profound, because I can't measure. I don't know what that would look like, right? Like, I'm not here to say what that would mean, but I can see it going, like, in my head. If I would have, like, everything I wanted, I would love to keep having Liber8 events, making them bigger and bigger, having them all around the country, all around the world, different festivals, having more people feeling liberated, feeling empowered, creating more community, more sense of belonging, more people that feel free in their self-expression. Along with that, I would love to have, means of reaching people that are not necessarily live events, right? But also having digital platforms, digital experiences, whether that be courses or online events or, a product line of some sort, and all of the above, but ways to reach people that, or an app. I've been thinking about an app, a way to connect people in different, more modern ways. So, all of the above is where my head's at. And also, that being said, being open to where that takes me. I know, for myself, like professionally and career wise, I would love to, aside from coaching, but like speak on this topic and inspire other communities and share my journey and help other people to find their self-expression. Writing books is something I've always loved doing. I love writing. I might need to like put myself in a hut with no outside influence for a little while to do that. But, that's always something I've wanted to do, and another way to just reach more people. So I think as the world is growing so rapidly in technology and all these exciting things, what I keep remembering is that everything is a tool. So, again, it's easy to get sometimes a little frightened almost, or just whoa at how fast the world is moving. But it's really just epic tools that we get to harness. So I look forward to doing that in the future as well.
I love that. Is so good. What about people who can help you on your quest? Who should reach out to you? Who would you like to collaborate with? What people, resources do you need? People you'd love to collaborate with or could help you along your way? Who should reach out?
Yeah. Thank you for that. Hello, whoever's watching this. I would love to call upon, first of all, people that are aligned with this same mission, that want to be involved, whether it's, to be part of the team, be part of the community, people that want to be involved. Please don't hesitate. The more diversity and the more people that see this vision, the better. In terms of collaboration, if you have a wellness brand, if you're an artist like a DJ or producer or rapper or any kind of visual artist, sound healer, people are expressing their art in so many beautiful ways nowadays. I would love to collaborate with more artists and bring them on board and showcase them. If you are creating a product or you're wanting to create a product that you want to help showcase, I would love to do that as well. I would love to create more platforms for artists to showcase themselves and to collaborate with each other and to foster a collaborative energy in general in the artistic space, because everybody, again, has their own unique twist, their own unique flavor that they bring to whatever they're doing. So if you're any kind of artist, would love to collaborate with you. If you already have a brand, you're doing similar things, would love to collaborate with you. If you would love to be part of the team, would love to collaborate with you. So welcoming it all.
Last thing, if you have any advice for someone who's stuck in a really hard place or is in a time where they don't know what they want to do with their life, what is your one advice for someone struggling?
Yeah. First of all, to anybody that is struggling, you are not alone. Like, the worst thing is to feel like you're going through an experience that nobody else understands, or that nobody else has been through, or that, you'll always feel this way. So if to anybody going through a hard time like that, or that has been through a hard time like that, understands, just first of all, sending so much love and compassion and the comfort that, this is just a phase. Second of all, I would say action is the antidote to feeling stuck, right? In my opinion, better to take action and, then see the feedback of that than get stuck in analysis paralysis. I see so many people with so many amazing ideas, but they're stuck in the analysis paralysis stage and not sure where to start. And the answer is to just start, like do something, anything, even if it's the tiniest thing, but that'll improve self-esteem so much and show you that, like, once you get the ball rolling, the universe really does help. If you have a desire and you take some action, the universe will meet you halfway. So that's second of all. And third of all is to find community, find people that are either inspiring to you, like mentors, good friends that understand you, that want to take action with you. People, we need each other so bad. It's like, we're more connected than ever, and then in some ways we're less connected than ever. Again, everything's a tool, everything in measure, but community, people around you, it's everything. So find your aligned people. They exist. They're out there. You can always reach out to me. You can always reach out to you, Anthony. There's so many people that are with you, that support you, that want you to succeed, and that will help you, and that can help you.
Amen. That's so awesome. Mashi, it's been an amazing conversation. There's so much more to talk about. We'll have to do it again in a couple of months, maybe, around the winter time or after winter. We both cover some ground and then we can catch up again.
I would love that. Thank you so much, Anthony, for having me. This was such a fun conversation. And thank you to everybody for listening.
Everybody, follow Mashi Cohen at Mashi Cohen on Instagram, at the Liber8 Experience LA on Instagram. Go to Liber8experience.com to find out more. And we'll see you on the next one. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, Anthony. Thank you for all the work that you're doing. Keep it up. This is really
Absolutely
awesome.
I see the world changing for spiritual teachers. There's an increased cost of everything, which means most people can't afford retreats and trainings. There's an impact of traffic on commutes to the yoga studio or to church, and an increased attention on smartphones and laptops that we simply can't resist anymore. So I helped create a platform called spiritualfitnessgym.com. It's designed to be frictionless for teachers of all modalities to reach more people, to share their best teachings from the comfort of their home or their empty studio, and most importantly, to keep the lion's share of their revenue. If you're struggling to grow your in-person classes or your online audience, then spiritualfitnessgym.com is the launchpad that you've been waiting for. Imagine recording a video series of your best or favorite teachings from your house or an empty studio using a step-by-step guide that we've created in case you're not technically savvy, and then co-promoting it with a group of passionate people, including myself, all while maintaining creative control over your journey and your earnings. Bearers of light, head to spiritualfitnessgym.com right now. Click on the link Teachers and open the door to a realm of new possibilities, greater impact, and the kind of collaborative growth that can transform your business and light up the world together. Who listens to the GodXP podcast, then you're probably on a quest for cosmic gains. If that's true, we have a sponsor for you. Check out Seeker's Market. This is the place to level up your spiritual swag, home decor, fashion, courses, and more. Seeker's Market is now the official merch shop for all GodXP merch, and we couldn't be more stoked because of the incredible quality and caliber of art, prints, fashion, online education, and more. What's amazing about Seeker's Market is they understand that GodXP listeners have the spiritual aesthetic of the gods. So visit theseekersmarket.com and use code GodXP20 for 20% off your first order. What's better, if you live in the US of A, free shipping on all orders, no minimum purchase required. Could not be happier to partner with the Seeker's Market to bring you current and future GodXP merch, and I can't wait to fill the office and my entire home with Seeker's Market, art, prints, and more. Join me, won't you, in visiting theseekersmarket.com today. Cosmic Crusader, fellow GodXP podcast listener, I've found the digital oasis of enlightenment. It's called Spiritual Fitness Gym. There's no treadmills, there's no weights, just pure spiritual gains. If you're ready for a Zen playground, a spiritual buffet of yoga, meditation, and other divine practices, well, my spiritual comrade, I've teamed up with Spiritual Fitness Gym to bring you my very first instructional boring-proof meditation completely free for a limited time. This is a boot camp for the body, mind, and spirit, a series of meditations with yoga that you can practice on your own time to build a consistent spiritual practice in your life. Don't miss this opportunity to develop your daily practice into something that's engaging and consistent and totally worth doing forever. That's right, my friends. My very first course on Spiritual Fitness Gym, called Boring Proof Meditation, is absolutely free right now. Just pure, unadulterated technique and practice with me. So, are you ready to ditch the McDonald's of spirituality and embrace divine excellence? If so, go to spiritualfitnessgym.com right now and level up your spirit today.